So this morning we're up and at 'em after a nice day yesterday, a nice Earth Day. We had showers that did come in, but before we did that, we were able to do our traditional Three Sisters planting. It was a nice day with my cousin Kalia and Courtney, who was from PDC cohort 4. So this morning we have our 2 new hives coming from Doug's apiary. So the boxes are already over there ready for these guys, and we're going to be getting another new stand in here with another hive. My cousin and I are doing some bartering, and I'm going to get a chance to share some of our plants and trees and shrubs with her to take when she builds out her new paradise down in South Carolina. So that'll be really neat. And we've already kind of potted up some larger elderberry, a fig, and we have this river birch that's now about at least 5 or 6 feet tall. So I said to her, before you buy anything, we probably have just about everything that you need here, and we'll either start potting it up as a sapling so it can grow, or we'll have plants in the greenhouse. So that'll be fun to do that, and then she'll start carting those back and forth. But I wanted to share a little bit in our food forest also this morning around this idea of companion planting and polycultures, and like the benefits and how many things you can actually get in an area. And so right now we're standing in what was our original planted orchard area, and of course the small orchard turned into the food forest because we have fruit, nut, berries, and medicinals planted throughout the space. But there are areas that will primarily focus more on certain things, and within this space we primarily have fruit trees, but we also have a lot of medicinal plants interspersed in here too. So I just kind of wanted to share a couple things, and kind of pan around so you can see what the first 2 fruit trees that we put in here were these peach trees, cling peach trees here. And we've cut these back a lot because peach trees tend to, the peach trees in general tend to get lanky. They get the rust on them. So, over a period of time, they just do that, right? And we gave these a nice haircut last year, last fall. Took out a lot of the dead branches and everything so they could kind of healthy wise themselves up. And then we also have this plum tree, another plum tree, which we were going to take out, but it started leafing out, and so we're keeping that. And all of these have bloomed so far, which means we'll get lots of fruit on them. And historically, these peaches and plums have gotten quite a bit of fruit on them. Then we have a couple of pear trees in here. One here, which we had given a nice haircut. Another one over there. But those were the original trees. And then we came in here. We put some. This is a pawpaw. And you see the blooms that are here right now. This is already bore fruit. And typically, folks will say, your pawpaw you need to have it for about 5 years, and it needs to get like about 5 or 6 feet before it starts bearing fruit. Well, this little thing right here was smaller than this, and it bore a couple fruits the first year, and last year it had even more on it. So I would assume that we're going to get a bit of fruit on here because there's all the flowers. This is a persimmon here, which this persimmon was a little tiny stick. This was something that April Coburn and Ed gave me from their space, and it was a little sapling. So it's growing right up. And we have another pawpaw over here, a smaller one, that pretty much did the same thing. And I actually think that both of these came as saplings from April Coburn's and Ed's homestead. So, and both of them have produced pawpaws already. They were some of the first pawpaws that I ate from here, which are really cool. And then over here, we also have a couple pomegranates. We have pomegranate here, another pomegranate there, and another one here. And two of these pomegranates have produced fruit for the first time last year. Another pear tree, fig tree, just in this area. And then on the understory, we have comfrey, which I put comfrey around all of the fruit trees. I mentioned that to somebody the other day because it's an excellent nitrogen fixer, has a deep tap root, goes and pulls all the nutrients up to the surface. Plus it's medicinal, so I use it for my apothecary. And so you see that interspersed through here as well. There's a stand of Solomon seal over here where we put transplanted a couple plants from some of the larger stands of Solomon seal. So this is starting to spread already, which is really, really cool. So you see that in there. And then we've got some different berries in here. We have wolfberry right here. And we moved this one here last fall, so it's taking and likes this space. We have raspberry here, which I think came from my buddy Nick Letts. So there's one here, and I know we planted another one in here. We have a couple in here, so those are going to be on the next level down. We have some aronias and raspberries in here as well. Another wolfberry over in this area. So this area here, which, you know, if I kind of pan around, has all these, and there's the other pomegranate right here on the corner of the bed where we have the nut trees, which it looks like I'm going to have to go in and start plucking up some of the chestnuts that are coming up in there, as I can see. So yeah, so this little space in itself is like a slice of the food forest, right? And it has got all these varieties of fruit in here, different trees and shrubs and plants and berries and medicinal plants, and all of these plants are working in concert with one another, right, to produce food and medicine, and soil amending aspects for the soil, and consequently there's this symbiotic relationship going on here, which is absolutely wonderful. This area sits right in front of the apiary, and it blows out to this area that's in front of us, where to the right we have the kiwis. So we're hoping that those produce for the first time this year. We have our little tunnel area over here where we do our propagation, and we propagated a lot of elderberry, so we still have a number of the pot in there. We have tree collards in there, and we're going to be planting our potatoes in here soon. Then all along this area, we have different trees and shrubs for pollen. We're recreating the pollinator garden in this area. This was once all a pollinator garden until it got encroached by the butterfly bush, which I'm cutting all of that back. And then we, of course, had the story about the bees swarming and catching the beautiful swarm under here. So this is a beautiful space just in this section, but it's very representative of the entire homestead. You know, it kind of becomes the template. It was the first area to create this polyculture companion planting, which polyculture means that you're working with the different layerings and you're planting beneficial trees and shrubs and plants together. You know, so you have your canopy layered and you have your next layer down, which in this case we have our larger peach trees. Then we're going down to our understory, which are our pawpaws and persimmon, and then our next layer would be some of our shrubs, which would be our raspberries and aronias and wolfberries. And then we have some of our ground on the ground plants like our comfrey, and I think we have some groundnut in here as well that kind of pops up every once in a while, because I know I had planted some in here some time back. And we also have some ferns in here. So this is what it looks like in the spring, and then in the summertime there's additional plants that come up in here, come up in this area as well. But yeah, this is kind of how you would, you know, want to get your food forest started. And I failed to mention the hazelnut over here in the corner too. So this space does represent fruit, nut, and berries and medicinal plants, which are kind of all of the different pieces of our food forest. And then we also have the pollinator plants that are in the surrounding area. So yeah, you know, this is a very cool thing, and you know, you don't have to have a lot of space to create that scenario. You know, this space here could be a small patch in someone's backyard or on their front lawn, and you would have all of this, like I said, medicine and food and medicinal, as well as pollinator type plants that you could have in a very small space. It's a different way of looking at things, you know, when you're moving away from like these traditional agricultural models where there's not a benefit, symbiotic or relationship that's going on, where it's nurturing the soils, nurturing the plants, and then it's nurturing us. And quite frankly, this is the way our ancestors used to plant, right? Many of them didn't have lots of space in order to create what they needed to sustain themselves. So this is really getting us back to indigenous practices as far as how we do our planting. And, you know, the permaculture community has this very strong recognition as well as respect for the fact that permaculture practices are indigenous practices. And the terminology was brought into this time, and it's made it more assumable for folks. So yeah, I always get happy when I come out here into these spaces, but you can go into just about any space on this, you know, on our land here, and find this type of template going on. And in our front area, which was one of the last areas that we started doing planting in, and we have like keyhole gardens and things like that, that's just an expanded view of what we have here. But I wanted to share that this morning in case you are all thinking about wanting to create something like this. And I will further note that the plants that we're growing in our nursery to be able to sell and share with folks are all either coming from here, you know, or they are being grown from seed, and they are to support your ability to create something like this. You know, we really have, we've decided to this year shift more towards a permaculture nursery, so that we're growing those types of things that I'm sharing with you, so that you can create these more sustainable spaces in your garden. Now, certainly we're also going to have some of the annual vegetables, like we are growing tomatoes and peppers and zucchini and squash and things like that. And we will have plants that people can be able to buy as starter plants. But our primary thing that we're doing through our nursery is growing these perennial type plants that are in these different families, where you can create more like a sustainable food for. So, and then if you come out here and there's something that you are looking for and you don't see, let us know. This whole space was developed with the intent that we could propagate from the plants here, harvest the seeds from the plants that are here, and then turn around and be able to offer them to folks. So we're just getting started with that. I was just noting to someone the other day how this is our first year actually being able to go through a full cycle of planting and having things in place. You know, our apiary is expanding. It's gotten to a point where it's more than what our goal was for this year. We were trying to get up to a total of 7 hives. We are now going to have 9, and then a couple more coming. So it's yeah, and you get a chance to see, once you start putting these types of plants in, you're going to have plants forever. You know, you put comfrey in, you're going to have comfrey forever. You put elderberry in, you'll be able to propagate from elderberry forever, and therefore you won't have to continue to put money into plants where you have them for a season and then they're gone, right? You're actually creating a more sustainable gardens and things. And, you know, along with that, the soil, the different, the habitat in the area benefits from everything. We have attracted so much habitat here, it's just amazing. We don't use feeders. We don't use any little houses for the different insects. They have so much to create their homes and sustain themselves in. And we get just about every type of bird. We have all the little ground critters. So when you create these spaces, which are more or less, you're working in concert with nature, and you're not trying to control nature or force nature to do something that it naturally doesn't do. You're working in conjunction with it, you're honoring it, you hold a sacred reverence, and then there's that symbiotic relationship that happens, and this is what is created from it. So within a week, all of a sudden everything has leafed out. These are our hazelnuts. These were originally supposed to be shrubs. I cut these down every year, right? This is a wonderful medicinal plant, right? We have 2 of them. They've basically turned into trees, and they're beautiful, right? So I also believe that they are talking to one another, right? This is why everything has blown up out here, because It's talking. Hi there, Cardinal. Yeah, we have different families of birds and things that are here. So that's my sharing this morning. I just want to talk a little bit about food forests. I know Gabby will post this up on our YouTube channel. We're trying to start getting some of our items up there. She sent me a video the other day so I could learn how to do this directly from my phone when I'm out here, and I haven't quite done that yet. I'm going to try to do that this weekend. But you'll be able to go out to our YouTube channel, and I will make sure that when I come out here in the morning after our meditation and prayer that I'm sharing something that could be of benefit from an educational standpoint for folks. So happy Sunday.